What happens when the biggest toy maker in the world, the LEGO Group, decides to bring their blocks to the virtual space and attempt an MMORPG of their own? Well, if I'm talking about it in this series, we kind of know that didn't go according to plan. It only took about a year to face its demise because as soon as LEGO Universe launched, developed by NetDevil and published by the LEGO Group, it was gone. Released back in October of 2010, LEGO Universe was an innovative crafting and youngling-focused MMO not unlike Minecraft that would later launch and shock the world just after LEGO Universe was announced to be shutting down. Minecraft and Roblox both would change the gaming space entirely, so why was LEGO Universe, despite being first and innovative in its own right, unable to share similar success? And why just 1 year after launch was the title shuttered? Not many mysteries are as short yet interesting as LEGO Universe. I look forward to uncovering the clues and evidence concerning the biggest contributing factors for the death of a game, LEGO Universe. Grab your Legos and let's build the case, detectives. Thank you to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. Opera GX is a browser made especially for gamers, with a number of features that make it easier to navigate the web while you game. With GX Control, you can help enhance gaming performance while your browser is open, as the panel lets users limit CPU or RAM usage. You can also limit the bandwidth to help game performance in games or streams with the network limiter feature. The accessibility sidebar also makes it to where you can easily chat and browse multiple social media channels simultaneously, such as WhatsApp, Telegram, and Discord, keeping all updates in one easy-to-see spot. You can log into any of these right from the sidebar. The GX Player is a similar thing, this time with your favorite streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music. You can log into 3 of them from the sidebar directly. Make sure to check out the link in the description or top comment to download Opera GX for free. Opera GX is also available on mobile with GX Mobile, which can be connected to the desktop version too. Thanks again to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to the video, detectives. The story begins far back in 2002, where an early team within the LEGO Group, an interlocking toy company from Denmark, now the largest toy company in the world valued at $6 billion, would begin building an online infrastructure. This online infrastructure, dubbed Project Arena, was heavily inspired by MMOs that had risen to popularity at the time. By 2002, LEGO Group had put out easily a dozen video games, but their most successful title wouldn't come until 2005, utilizing one of the biggest IPs in the world, Star Wars. People within LEGO Group were interested in MMOs, but the company's lack of big success in video games and unfamiliarity with MMOs meant that they were hesitant to get involved early on. In 2004, we saw the effects of this slow movement, when a team of 8 developers began heavily researching MMOs within LEGO Group. Of the 8 developers was Mark Hansen, the game's later senior director, and Ronnie Schreier, who was the director of development. This led directly to the creation of a system used to take bricks from the real world and digitize them to be used in the virtual one, the LEGO Digital Designer, that still is in existence today. It wasn't until LEGO Group would face immense success from their Star Wars LEGO game that gaming would be taken seriously within the company, and thus an online LEGO game was given tacit approval for pre-production. LEGO Group would begin sorting through 50 different developers looking for the right one to work on an online LEGO game, narrowing down in the end to 2 companies in particular, Funcom and NetDevil. Funcom just off the rocky start of Anarchy Online, which would later become one of the pioneer greatest sci-fi MMOs of all time. NetDevil was fresh off of a title that they did by teaming up with none other than Korean developer-publisher NCSoft, Auto Assault. Both of these titles were covered on the Death of a Game series, but both for very different reasons. Anarchy Online faced that sort of natural cause sort of death, while NetDevil's Auto Assault barely even lasted a year and was seen by most as a dud at worst, and an interesting concept at best. However, NetDevil would actually win out the battle of the LEGO contract reportedly due to their experience and excitement with the project. To be fair to LEGO Group, NetDevil's title Auto Assault hadn't yet failed because it didn't launch until 2006, though it was shuttered later in 2007. If it's not clear I'm slightly calling into question the pick of NetDevil in the first place, it's because, sure, I wasn't there behind the closed doors to see all of the pitches including NetDevil's, it must have been a hell of a pitch for Funcom, a Nordic company, to lose to NetDevil, who hadn't even launched a successful MMO yet. The strong faith in NetDevil based on experience just doesn't make that much sense to me though. Unless the idea is that we can't find any actual MMO developers, so let's just settle for ones that worked on one that failed. Problems for the online LEGO game would begin as early as pre-production due to a massive time difference between the LEGO Group in Denmark and NetDevil in Colorado. This wouldn't be that big of a deal for most developer-publisher relations, but LEGO Group wanted to be involved in the development, thus complicating things. The LEGO game's official name would be finalized June 2007, LEGO Universe, with the targeted Q4 2008 release date in tow. This would be a difficult thing to deliver on though, as we would later find out in a tell-all article concerning LEGO Universe. It was stated by 2008 that LEGO Universe had been in development for 2 years, but was having issues of identity and NetDevil knowing what the game was supposed to be. If that wasn't bad enough, NetDevil in the process of developing LEGO Universe had started to go bankrupt. I'm assuming that Auto Assault failure in 2007 didn't help either. This meant that they had to open up to the possibilities of being acquired by another company in order to get funding and continue development. Coming quietly in the summer of 2008 was an acquisition that wouldn't be announced officially until the spring of the next year. NetDevil would be acquired by venture capital-powered Gazillion Entertainment. According to the NetDevil team, this acquisition would prove to be quite a disaster in the end. The sale would lead to more slowing in the game's development and eroded the trust of the new owners. Gazillion was now in charge too, and very likely was getting more and more control over the project LEGO Universe itself. "This is the most disastrous decision the LEGO Group could have ever made," said Mark Hansen, the senior director with the LEGO Group. And that's because Gazillion was primarily a venture capital developer, which meant that they kind of make games to make money. Not that everyone else doesn't, but you get the drift. But it wasn't as simple as just LEGO Group shouldn't have lost trust in NetDevil either, when NetDevil was close to being shuttered without Gazillion stepping in the first place. This meant that without the acquisition, problems or not, LEGO Universe, according to key developers, wouldn't have even made it to the finish line. But it's not just a NetDevil are the good guys situation here either, because LEGO Group did report that they seemed aimless and needed help. LEGO Universe hosted a Friends and Family Alpha December 8, 2009, letting the game be playable by others for the first time. LEGO Universe was targeting the younger audience, the same audience who primarily had LEGOs purchased for them. This provided quite the interesting predicament, as MMOs so far had been marketed towards older players. This isn't to say that younger players won't or don't like MMOs, but it meant that if you wanted to attract a new audience to a genre, it was going to take a lot of onboarding to do such. And you had to be careful not to appeal too much to a brand new audience in the MMO genre, lest you anger the standard MMO audience that already existed there. It's difficult to market an MMO to children, let alone one with a subscription fee, which had been a big barrier at the time. It's hard to make money from an audience who just doesn't have any money that requires a constant, consistent purchase, like a subscription fee. Barriers to entry make MMOs difficult to play for the younger audience. LEGO Universe would announce its beta in March, set for the summer of 2010, becoming playable to those who utilized FilePlanet to download the game. Oh, FilePlanet, the memories. That's pretty much how I played so many different MMOs. PC Gamer would post positive beta impressions concerning LEGO Universe, where they would talk about really enjoying the game and the diverse activities that the game had you participate in, despite it being so kid-friendly. PC Gamer would discuss 2 different themed levels, or worlds as they would be dubbed in LEGO Universe, that provided unique gameplay experiences and feels. While not a ton of detail had been released concerning what the gameplay in LEGO Universe would actually consist of, what was shown to those who tested alpha or closed beta had been positively received thus far. The real test would be if LEGO Universe could thrive post-launch, and the fateful months that would follow, as players get more and more time to dig into the title, as is standard for any MMO of the time. LEGO Universe would showcase a fancy new E3 trailer, June 17, 2010, showing off what looked to be a world story set for the game, where a team of LEGOs are in search for the essence of pure imagination. That goes horribly wrong, and the result is a super wacky and creative game that allows players to essentially build and bring to life their very own LEGO figures. Meanwhile, the same month as LEGO Universe was looking very much impressive on the biggest stage in gaming, E3, Minecraft, which needs no introduction, was quietly entering its alpha, and it wouldn't be quiet for much longer. Minecraft was already generating immense buzz and hype before even reaching its beta. And whether or not the LEGO Universe team wanted it or not, they were set on a crash course with Minecraft, and we all have the glory of hindsight to know how that went. After numerous delays and issues behind the scenes, LEGO Universe, after 4 to 5 years of development, would launch October 26, 2010 globally. LEGO Universe would be charging a box price of $40 with an additional sub fee, as typical for the time in MMOs, of $10. LEGO Universe would score a 70 out of 100 on aggregate review website Metacritic from 11 different critics, with a similar review score amongst the players. While a 70 isn't outright impressive, it wasn't a bad score and certainly gave the team around LEGO Universe something to work with theoretically. But the reviews on LEGO Universe are within the first month, which means they could have been singing a different tune quite soon after. You can't ever judge the success of an MMO based on launch alone. IGN and Eurogamer both, however, would score LEGO Universe a non-impressive 5 out of 10. IGN would state that LEGO Universe was a fixer-upper and needed a lot of work on the bugs present in the game and a general lack of content. IGN was positive about the sheer creativity possible in LEGO Universe though, which included auto snap building and free building, which brought LEGO creativity to the virtual space as promised. You could even customize your very own world, which is effectively instance player housing on steroids, because you could bring to life your creations. Eurogamer would mimic the positives that IGN would state, but were quite negative concerning the actual core gameplay outside of the LEGO building, likening it to a ludicrous grind that leads to nowhere. The most damning part of the Eurogamer review, however, was concerning the lack of content in LEGO Universe. According to Eurogamer, you could complete half of the content in a single day. This was because the universe concept in LEGO Universe, worlds or aka levels where players could traverse through them, despite how pretty looking they were constructed in a way where they were nothing more than mid-sized questing areas when compared to other MMOs. That means that once you're out of the Nimbus station, you have a tutorial world to visit and then 2 other major worlds. And that's it. There weren't any other worlds to really traverse to yet, and according to documents released after the fact, this was because the team behind LEGO Universe wanted to create a number of themed worlds to flesh out the game, but had difficulties creating them due to time expectations from the LEGO group. A bunch of ideas but not a whole lot of implementation, in other words. LEGO Universe wasn't blowing the doors off of the world just yet, but it was impressive, especially for LEGO fans. It just clearly needed a little bit more time in the oven and a bit more focus. Couple that with a lackluster combat style that just seems to blend action elements with the MMO elements in a way that doesn't quite understand what's going on. It just misses the actual depth of an MMO and its sheer options of ability and choice. If you're not a fan of the auto attack combat style, you had the limited options of additional abilities being limited to, well, mostly 4 at a time. It felt like playing an incredibly pared down MMO without the appropriate payout for such. The work-in-progress success wasn't good enough for the LEGO Group, however, who reportedly projected to have 180,000 subscribers. In actuality, the game launched with 14,000 pre-orders, and then plateaued at 38,000 copies. While those numbers aren't very impressive, they are certainly serviceable. Not all MMOs started as titans with hundreds of thousands of players, and you can always work to build that audience, which is the idea anyway, right? However, LEGO Group's expectations were completely unreasonable. They wanted a developer whose previous history was a failed MMO to beat the greatest MMOs of all time and secure 180,000 players at launch? Not even EverQuest, EVE, RuneScape, or Ultima Online could get numbers like that for a launch. They must have been hit by the WoW bug, but whatever it was bad and unreasonable expectations that could doom a project because you're going to pull the plug way too soon. MMOs are long-term investments by nature. Many charge monthly fees after all. Approaching the MMO market with the idea of instant riches is foolhardy, and we have seen that time and time again on this series. These expectations would prove to be critical, as after launch news hit the web that the original founders of NetDevil had left the company and were no longer involved in LEGO Universe. This included Ryan Seabury, Peter Grundy, and Scott Brown. Whether it was the lack of success or their growing poor relations with Gazillion, both were crucial factors. LEGO Universe losing the key developers originally involved on the project, such as the creative director himself, surely wasn't a good look for the game. Minecraft would enter beta December 2010, and by this point the world couldn't keep quiet about the game anymore. Minecraft, unlike LEGO Universe, was beauty and simplicity. Whereas LEGO Universe offered very advanced building options and scripting patterns, Minecraft was just about gathering materials in a voxel visual style and building out structures or surviving the harsh environment. You could create complex structures, sure, or just simple stuff in Minecraft. The gameplay and building were intertwined and weren't separated completely like in LEGO Universe. The simple visual style made Minecraft playable on basically any machine. Meanwhile, LEGO Universe, despite its simple LEGO visuals, was actually quite complex and utilized the Gamebryo engine. LEGO Universe was only playable on higher-end machines too, which would mean that the younger audience it was trying to attract now needed to have fancy computers and convince their parents to pay a sub fee. These are some rather large barriers to entry when compared to Minecraft's low box price, no sub fee, and the ability to be played on a toaster. LEGO Universe wasn't a bad game by any stretch, but it was going up against a title that would go on to revolutionize gaming, all the while doing so with such beautiful simplicity. MMOs already have a tough barrier to entry. Coming not as a surprise to those watching this video, but as a surprise to about everybody else involved in the project up until the morning of, was massive layoffs at NetDevil, amounting to 20% of their workforce being terminated. Employees found out via a Facebook posting, which is just gross. More news would come out of the affair, with news that Gazillion would be selling their development stake of LEGO Universe to the LEGO Group. Thus, the layoffs were described as positive, since the original developers were mostly rehired at the LEGO Group to continue to develop the game. Development teams do often shrink following a launch, but this was more than just that. There was definitely some drama between NetDevil and Gazillion, and in the end the LEGO Group mostly took NetDevil's side. Perhaps now with these things settled, the game could get some much needed focus and love to get back into a better shape. Another of the large issues plaguing LEGO Universe was how much it costs. Like we covered with Free Realms, a game we also featured on the Death of a Game series, it's hard to get kids to pay money monthly to play a game, or any game really. They have to ask their parents to use their credit card, and a constant charge versus a one and done or a free-to-play approach is just a harder sell. And trust me, I can say that from experience. Not only did you have to buy LEGO Universe for $40, though that price would quickly drop down to much lower, you still had to pay a monthly fee on top of that, which is a tough ask in 2011 as the standards for such had risen so highly. In order for LEGO Universe to remain competitive and get any audience, they were going to have to change their approach to pricing. Like many other MMOs of the time, the move to free-to-play was an option to increase player count and thus revenue. LEGO Universe was looking to share some of that success that titles like City of Heroes, SWTOR, and Lord of the Rings made from going to free-to-play. The only problem was they didn't do enough research to make sure that possibility was a reality. Instead, what players got was a very limited trial account that you needed to pay $10 to then upgrade. So for $10 a month, you could get access to the 5 worlds included into the game and any new content set to release. You don't need to look far to know that this isn't what other MMOs were offering when they went free-to-play. Instead, they were offering near-complete gaming experiences that offered some more content in piecemeal fashion that you could purchase or unlock with a sub fee. Sometimes the sub fee was just a bonus thing too and not required. LEGO Universe being free-to-play is more accurately described as it getting a free trial. And the success was immediate, and obviously helped LEGO Universe reach 2.3 million players and 100,000 subscriptions in tow. It just wasn't enough success, not for LEGO Group, and the heavy expectations placed on LEGO Universe. Imagine had they actually gone fully free-to-play though, what those numbers could have looked like? LEGO Universe was just an online title with some key issues that needed ironing out, or more importantly, the time to do such. Perhaps LEGO Universe could take their newfound success from the business model switch and parlay it into some more. Countdown to the Power of the Nexus Force treated much like an expansion, added a plethora of new specialties or classes, and new missions including dailies, and 75 new achievements. What the new update didn't bring, however, was more substantial content in the way of new worlds, raids, or dungeons as most common in MMOs. Instead, the LEGO Universe team focused on content in already discovered areas, which both aren't as fun or impactful. And at the end of the day, the game's name is LEGO Universe. It's clearly a game about adding new worlds to traverse and explore. With new worlds and zones being added, the different unique LEGO themes was one of the strengths of LEGO Universe. There just wasn't enough of it for comfort. And it's definitely not like LEGO is lacking in worlds and universes to explore, having had dozens of high-profile collaborations with the likes of Star Wars, Harry Potter, and much more. They designed one of the worlds to be literally a hub world, meaning that you could join other worlds from it. There's just only 5 of them to choose from, and that's probably one of the included ones. That's just not enough content to charge a subscription fee for. LEGO Group might have had some heavy expectations of LEGO Universe, but they hadn't put in the heavy support to match, whether it be marketing or financial help until September 2011, according to the LEGO Universe team. LEGO Group waiting a year to fully support their first online project was puzzling, but their help was finally coming in the way of a Ninja merchandise push by the fall of 2011. But would LEGO Group provide enough support long enough to see LEGO Universe grow to something more? Don't you hate it when the next scene answers the last scene's question? Well, sadly, within 2 months, LEGO Group had seen enough. According to the LEGO Group, they would be shuttering LEGO Universe January of the next year, citing a lack of subscribers as the reason. But the story wasn't that black and white. The subscriber numbers were there, they just weren't impressive enough. This is super common of corporations with no MMO experience to expect a return on their investment immediately in a long-term focused investment market. But LEGO Universe wasn't a bad game. In fact, it had a resub rate of 87%, which meant that it most definitely had a core audience, and was managing to hold on to them quite well, content problems or not. LEGO Group pulling the plug on LEGO Universe was nothing short of premature. Much like their rushed launch, LEGO Universe just tragically wasn't given enough time to turn things around or build on their momentum. LEGO Universe would officially shut down January 31st, 2012, just a few months after the launch of Minecraft, which would go on to sell over 238 million copies. Yeah, you heard that number right. Meanwhile, Roblox, a similar game we also mentioned, with similar scripting elements present in LEGO Universe, would sell 176 million copies. Ouch. 6 years later, in Jorgen Vig Knudstorp, the CEO of LEGO Corp would state in 2018 that he considered it one of his greatest fiascos, pulling the plug on LEGO Universe too soon. LEGO Universe being shut down right before the big Minecraft and Roblox boom was a tragedy for LEGO and fans alike. And the damn CEO even acknowledges it, right? Because with how business works, those two titles greatly succeeding would have only helped LEGO Universe, which offered a different experience by greatly expanding the market size. In a weird way, LEGO Universe having launched unfinished was too late and early at the same time. To see the market explode to the levels it later did, and to have enough time in the oven to last post-launch. Like most MMO projects we cover on the Death of a Game series, when developers and publishers fail to keep the servers alive for players to enjoy, which is kind of promised on the agreement they make when you buy your game, players in the community are there to save the day. If they only got more official support to do such, like Star Wars Galaxy's emulator server or Project 1999. LEGO Universe Dark Flame and emulator would allow LEGO Universe to be playable online yet again though. The Dark Flame team would reach out to LEGO Group concerning the legality of running such a server, and in the end the communication would go dark, until abruptly Dark Flame's team would announce that on October 2021, they would be releasing the source code for their emulator but discontinuing the work on the project. While it was sad news that the negotiations didn't go too well, at least the Dark Flame team had given the source code to the community so they could still host their own private servers of LEGO Universe and take place in a part of history that was abruptly cut short. It's not like Legos aren't still worth billions of dollars, right? There's still an audience. That's why allowing the community to continue to run the servers makes sense, from a perspective of art preservation, which we should all care greatly about. You can stick LEGO Universe in a museum, sure, but without playable online servers, you can never actually experience what it means to play the game, and what it meant to play the game. Even if there's not an official supported capacity to still play LEGO Universe for those watching, at least you still get a chance to go formulate your thoughts and enjoy the title, if you missed it in the short window that it lasted. With LEGO Universe officially shut down, that means we've reached the end of our timeline detectives, and thus edged closer to solving this case for good. But before we get to our final deduction, there's still some loose ends I need to tie up concerning LEGO Universe and the reasons it failed as an MMO. Something I discovered that was quite shocking about LEGO Universe was how much money was spent on the game, and how much of it was dedicated to child safety chat controls alone. LEGO Universe had an impressive budget of $125 million, and I want you detectives to get your guesses ready to imagine how much of that was spent on child safety controls. Any guesses? 20%. Yep, 25 million of the budget was spent on making the game accessible for children, the target audience, through outer word filtering, moderation, and more. The system that the LEGO Universe team developed to curb harassment and worse was incredibly successful, and incredibly expensive and time-consuming. Thus it was a significant additional factor into the complications of developing LEGO Universe, and thus why it suffered in some way. While I enjoyed LEGO growing up and still marvel at the things that people are able to create with them as an adult, aka yes, I never grew up, I wasn't much of a LEGO builder savant. Nope, I preferred watching back-to-back episodes of Sherlock and Murder, She Wrote on TV instead. Which is why I'm here to do what I'm actually good at, solve a case. So if you're hearing that music, it means that that's Tom's way of letting everyone know that's exactly what we're going to do right now for the final deduction on the Death of a Game, LEGO Universe. Not enough content. Required high-end machines. The game design just wasn't focused enough. Charged a sub and box fee while attempting to attract a younger audience. Strenuous relationship with their parent company, Gazillion. Expensive and time-intensive child-safe protocols. Crazy high expectations without the support to match. Beat the out by Minecraft. Not enough subscribers. The thought of being able to take everything that you want in the LEGO universe, no pun intended, and make it come to life in a children's-friendly MMO is surely an impressive thought or vision, even still today, as LEGO still sits atop the biggest toy company list. The LEGO foray into the virtual realm might not have been the success that was expected, but it was a success nonetheless in a multitude of ways. Helping LEGO blocks reach the virtual space in a way that they had never before has greatly increased the ability for all LEGO enjoyers around the world to make better LEGO models. So if you're a LEGO fan and never heard of LEGO Universe or don't care about it, well, you kinda should. While titles like Minecraft and Roblox would have their Titan levels of success, LEGO Universe would go on to be remembered as the other build-em-up kid-focused game that could have been something, had it been given time. A fateful tale of what could have been. Thanks for watching, Detectives.
Built over 1,000 years, it was meant to be a tower of dreams,